Testing, one, two, three, check, check. No, probably. See what I've done most of the things, but I didn't turn the lights on. And I'm sure that we need to put the candles away and get some, just bring some grape juice into here. Try something new for the Bima guest, which is I've set up a microphone so for the announcements and kiddish, you can come over and yeah. Let me see. I guess I should do it in a way that's facing. the cameras so you could. So you could stand here so people can see you and be able to talk into the microphone. Yeah,
Okay.
I think it'll work. Good point.
people that come.
Right, we do.
If it's all on Zoom, you want to set up a display here.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a visual material, so we'll certainly set up a display.
Oh, there's, yeah.
Yeah, they decided they want to do the visual.
Hey, what a nice, it was so nice that the Men's Club did with. What? It's a store. Community pulled together a nice basket. Mark would say, oh, that's the wrong, because it's daytime.
But if we win that basket,
Okay.
when we were coming to the synagogue last night, so it was, around 7 o'clock, we saw a bus, that said it was headed to Penn State. Did we, around that area? Yeah, yeah. They've had we were kind of surprised to see going to Penn State on a Friday night, but maybe a lot of people do that, spend the weekend there.
I mean, it could be that, or it could just be the bus is relocating, so now Saturday morning they take loads of kids that are all for spring break back.
Maybe.
Yeshmera Shabbat El Yishmereni, Ki Yeshmera Shabbat El Yishmereni, Ot Hileo Mead Beino Veini, Ot Hileo Mead, page 100. Ki Yeshmera Shabbat El Yishmereni, Ki Yeshmera Shabbat El Yishmereni, Od Hileo Mead Beino Veini, Od Hileo Mead Beino Veini. Or as we teach it in Sunday school to the children, if I take good care of Shabbat, God will take care of me. If I take good care of Shabbat, God will take care of me. It's a sign forever and ever between God and me. It's a sign forever and ever between God and me. Ki Yeshmera Shabbat El Yishmereni, Ki Yeshmera Shabbat El Yishmereni, Ot Hileo Mead Beino Veini, Ot Hileo Mead Beino Veini. Shabbat Shalom, everybody. And I'm glad that we're all here to share Shabbat together. Those of us who are here, those of us who are here, really we're all here together. We're in it together. So it's a good thing. I want to welcome our Bima guest, Steve Koffs, who is the leader of our House of Community. And so we're glad that you're here, and we're glad that everybody's here. Mark for the technology, and all of you for joining us technologically. And let us continue now with our morning Shabbat service on the top of page 103. The top of page 103. Let's just read that whole page together, both readings. We thank you, O God, for this time of prayer, when we become conscious of your presence and place before you our desires, our hopes, and our gratitude. This consciousness, this inner certainty of your presence is our greatest blessing. God, of your light, the visions of your truth, which bless us here, abide with us when we go out into the world, keeping us steadfast in loyalty to you and your commandments. Amen. Each of us enters this sanctuary with a different need. Some hearts are full of gratitude and joy. They are overflowing with the happiness of love and the joy of life. They are eager to confront the day, to make the world more fair. They are recovering from illness or have escaped misfortune, and we rejoice with them. Some hearts ache with sorrow. Disappointments weigh heavily upon them, and they have tasted despair. Families have been broken. Loved ones lie on a bed of pain. Death has taken those whom they cherished. May our presence and sympathy bring them comfort. Some hearts are embittered. They have sought answers in vain. Ideals are mocked and betrayed. Life has lost its meaning and value. May the knowledge that we too are searching restore their hope and give them courage to believe that not all is emptiness. Some spirits hunger. They long for friendship. They crave understanding. They yearn for warmth. May we, in our common need and striving, gain strength from one another as we share our joys, lighten each other's burdens, and pray for the welfare of our community. Ma tovu ohalecha Yaakov, ohalecha Yaakov, mishkenotecha Yisrael. Ma tovu ohalecha Yaakov, ohalecha Yaakov, mishkenotecha Yisrael. Va'ani berov chastecha avo veitecha eshtachaveh el heichal kodshecha ביראתך. מה טובו אוהליך יעקב, אוהליך יעקב, משכנותיך ישראל. מה טובו אוהליך יעקב, אוהליך יעקב, משכנותיך ישראל. אדוני אהבתי מעון ביתך, ומקום משכן כבודך. ואני אשתחווה ואכרע, אברך לפני אדוני עושי. מה טובו אוהליך יעקב, אוהליך יעקב, משכנותיך ישראל. מה טובו אוהליך יעקב, אוהליך יעקב, משכנותיך ישראל. ואני תפילתי לך, אדוני עת רצון. אלוהים ברוב חסדך, ענני באמת ישעך. מה טובו אוהליך יעקב, אוהליך יעקב, משכנותיך ישראל. מה טובו אוהליך יעקב, אוהליך יעקב, משכנותיך ישראל. ברוך אתה אדוני אלוהינו מלך העולם, אשר קידשנו במצוותיו וציוונו לעסוק בדברי Torah. We praise you, eternal God, sovereign of the universe. You hallow us with the gift of Torah and command us to immerse ourselves in its words. Eternal our God, make the words of your Torah sweet to us and to the house of Israel, your people, that we and our children may be lovers of your name, students of your Torah. We praise you, O God, teacher of Torah, to your people, Israel. Elu devarim she'en lahem shior, Elu devarim she'en lahem shior, Elu devarim she'en lahem shior, ve'elu hen. Elu devarim she'en lahem shior, Elu devarim she'en lahem shior, Elu devarim she'en lahem shior, ve'elu hen. Kibud avaim, ugmilud chasadim, v'hashkamat beit hamidrash, shacharit ve'arvit. Elu devarim she'en lahem shior, Elu devarim she'en lahem shior, Elu devarim she'en lahem shior, ve'elu hen. Ve'hachnasat orchim, uvikor cholim, ve'hachnasat kala, ulvayat hamet, ve'iyun tfilah, ve'iyun tfilah, v'hava'at shalom, bein adam lachavero, v'talmud Torah keneged kulam, 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 v'talmud Torah keneged kulam. Elohai neshama shenatata bi tehorahi, The soul that you have given me, O God, is pure. You created it, you formed it, you breathed it into me, and within me you sustain it. So long as I have breath, therefore, I will give thanks to you, my God, the God of all ages, source of all being, loving guide of every human spirit. We praise you, O God, in whose hands are the souls of all the living and the spirits of all flesh. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher natan lasechvi vina lehavchin ben yom uvein laila. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam she'asani Yisrael. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam she'asani ben chorin. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam pokeach ivrim. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam malbish arumim. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam matir asurim. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam zokef kfufim. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam hamechin mitzadei gaver. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam ozer Yisrael bigvura. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam oter Yisrael b'tifara. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam hanoten laya'ef koach. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam hama'avir sheina me'enai utnuma me'afapai. Eternal One, our God, God of all ages, school us in your Torah and bind us to your mitzvot. Help us to keep far from sin, to master temptation, and to avoid falling under its spell. May our darker passions not rule us, nor evil companions lead us astray. Strengthen in us the voice of conscience, prompt us to deeds of goodness, and bend our every impulse to your service, so that this day and always we may know your love and the goodwill of all who behold us. We praise you, O God. You bestow love and kindness on your people, Israel. Hitgadal v'hitgadash shemei rabbah, be'alma divrei chirutei v'yamlich malchutei, b'chayechon uvyomechon, uvchaye dechol beit Yisrael, ba'agala, uvizman kariv v'imru, amen. Yeshmei Rabba mevarach, le'alam ula'almei almaya, yitbarach, v'yishtabach, v'yitpa'ar, v'yitramam, v'yitnaseh, v'yithadar, v'yit'aleh, v'yithalal, shemei dekudesha, barichu, le'ela min kol birchata v'shirata, tushbechata v'nechemata, da'amiran bi'alma v'imru. Amen. In body, mind, or spirit, please rise as you are able. Baruch hu et Adonai hamevorach. Baruch Adonai hamevorach le'olam va'ed. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam yotzer or uvorei choshech oseh shalom uvorei et hakol hameir la'aretz v'ladarim aleha berachamim uvtuvo mechadesh b'chol yom tamid ma'aseh v'reishit ma rabu ma'asecha Adonai kulam b'chochma asita mal'ah ha'aretz kinyanecha titbarach Adonai Eloheinu al shevach ma'aseh yadecha ve'al me'ore or she'asita yifa'arucha selah. Baruch atah Adonai yotzer ha'ma'orot. Page 110. Ahava rabbav tanu Adonai Eloheinu, Chemla gedola v'tera, chamalta aleinu. Avinu malkeinu, bavor avotenu, shebatchu v'cha, Avinu malkeinu. Vatilamdem chukei chaim, kein techonenu utlamdenu, Avinu ha'av harachaman, hamrachem rachem aleinu. V'tein belibenu lahavin ulhaskil lishmoa, lilmod ulilamed, lishmor velasot. Ulkayem et kol divrei Talmud Torah techa b'ahava. V'ha'er enenu b'torah techa, v'dabek libeinu b'mitzvatecha, v'yached levavenu li'ahava u'yir'a et shemecha, v'lo nevosh le'olam va'ed, v'lo nevosh le'olam va'ed, ki v'shem kodshecha hagadol v'hanora batachnu, nagila v'nismecha b'shuatecha. Kiel po'el yishuot ata, uvanu v'charta v'keravtanu l'shimcha hagadol, sela be'emet, lehodot lecha u'liachedcha ba'ahava. Baruch atah Adonai, habocher ba'amo Yisrael ba'ahava. Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai echad. 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 Baruch Shem Kevod Malchuto, Leolam Va'ed. Baruch Shem Kevod Malchuto, Leolam Va'ed. Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai echad. Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai echad. Ve'ahavta et Adonai Elohecha b'chol levavcha uv'chol nafshecha uv'chol meodecha. Ve'hayu ha'devarim ha'ele asher anochi mitzavcha hayom ha'levavecha. V'shinantam levanecha, v'dibarta bam, v'shiftecha b'veitecha, uv'lechtecha v'derech, uv'shochbecha, uv'kumecha, u'kshartam le'ot al yadecha, v'hayu letotafot bein einecha, uchtavtam al mezuzot beitecha uvish'arecha leman tizkeru va'asitem et kol mitzvotai v'hitem kedoshim le'elohechem. Ani Adonai Elohechem asher hotzeiti etchem me'eretz Mitzrayim lihyot lachem le'Elohim Ani Adonai Elohechem. You may be seated. Page 112. Eternal truth it is that you alone are God and there is none else. May all the world rejoice in your love and exult in your justice. Let them beat their swords into plowshares. Let them beat their spears into pruning hooks. Let nation not lift up sword against nation. Let them study war no more. You shall not hate another in your heart. You shall love your neighbor as yourself. Let the stranger in your midst be to you as the native, for you were strangers in the land of Egypt. From the house of bondage we went forth to freedom. So let all be free to sing with joy. Mi chamocha ba'elim Adonai, mi kamocha nedar b'kodesh, nora tehilot osei fele, nora tehilot osei fele, shira chadasha, shibachu geulim, Lishimcha al sfat hayam, yachad kulam hodu v'himlichu v'amru, Adonai himloch, Adonai himloch, le'olam avad. Tzur Yisrael, kuma be'ezrat Yisrael, Ufdei chinumecha Yehuda veYisrael. Go aleinu Adonai tzvaot shemo, Kedosh Yisrael. Baruch atah Adonai Gal Yisrael. In body, mind, or spirit, please rise as you are able. Page 114. Adonai sefatai tiftach ufi yagid tehilatecha. Eternal God, open my lips that my mouth may declare your glory. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu ve'Elohei avotenu ve'imotenu, Elohei Avraham, Elohei Yitzchak, Elohei Yaakov, Elohei Sarah, Elohei Rivka, Elohei Leah, Elohei Rachel, Ha'el Hagadol Hagibor V'Hanora, El Elyon, Gomel Chasadim Tovim, V'Koneh Hakol, V'Zocher Chastei Havot V'Imahot, Umevi geula livnei v'neihem, L'ma'an shemo b'yahava, Melech ozer u'moshia u'magein, Baruch atah Adonai, Magein Avraham v'ezrat Sarah. Atah gibor le'olam Adonai, Mechayeh hakol atah rav lehoshia, Mechalkel chaim bechesed, Mechayeh hakol berachamim rabim, Somech noflim v'rofei cholim, Umatir asurim, Umkayem emunato, Lishenei afar, Michamocha ba'al gevurot, Umido melach, Melech meimit, Umchayeh, Umatzmiach Yeshua, V'ne'eman atah lahachayot hakol, Baruch atah Adonai, Mechayeh hakol. Page 116. Dekadesh et shimcha ba'olam, Keshem shemakdishim oto b'shmei marom, Kakatuv al yad neviecha, V'kara ze'el ze ve'amar, Kadosh, 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 Adonai Tzevaot, Melochol haaretz kevodo. Adir, adirenu, Adonai, Adonenu, ma'adir shimcha b'chol haaretz. Baruch kevod Adonai mimkomo. Echad hu Eloheinu, hu avinu, hu malkeinu, hu moshienu vehu yashmienu, berachamav le'enei kol chai. Ani Adonai Elohechem, Yimloch Adonai le'olam, Elohai Yichtzion, Ledor Vador, Hallelujah. Ledor Vador Nagid God Lecha, Ulnetzach netzachim kedushatcha nakdish, v'shivchacha Eloheinu mipinu lo yamush leolam vaed. Baruch atah Adonai ha'el hakadosh. To all generations we will make known your greatness, and to all eternity proclaim your holiness. Your praise, O God, shall never depart from our lips. We praise you, Eternal One, the Holy God. Please be seated. Top of page 118. Yismechu v'malachutecha, shomerei, 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 Shabbat v'korei, oneg Shabbat. Yismechu v'malachutecha, shomerei, 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 Shabbat v'korei, oneg Shabbat. Mekadeshei, mekadeshei shvi Shabbat. Kulam yisbeu v'yidangu mituvecha Shabbat. Yismechu v'malachutecha, shomerei, 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 Shabbat v'korei, oneg Shabbat. Yismechu v'malachutecha, shomerei, 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 Shabbat v'korei, oneg Shabbat. V'hashvi'i ratzita bo v'kidashto Shabbat. Chemdad yamim oto karata Shabbat. Yismechu v'malachutecha, shomerei, 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 Shabbat v'korei, oneg Shabbat. Yismechu v'malachutecha, shomerei, 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 Shabbat v'korei, oneg Shabbat. Zecher lema'aseh v'reishit Shabbat. Zecher lema'aseh v'reishit Shabbat. Yismechu v'malachutecha, shomerei, 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 Shabbat v'korei, oneg Shabbat. Yismechu v'malachutecha, shomerei, 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 Shabbat v'korei, oneg Shabbat. Our God, God of our fathers and our mothers, may our rest on this day be pleasing in your sight. Sanctify us with your mitzvot, and let your Torah be our way of life. Satisfy us with your goodness, gladden us with your salvation, and purify our hearts to serve you in truth. In your gracious love, eternal God, let your holy Sabbath remain our heritage, that all Israel, hallowing your name, may find rest and peace. We praise you, O God, for the Sabbath and its holiness. We give thanks for the freedom that is ours, and we pray for those in other lands who are persecuted and oppressed. Help them to bear their burdens and keep alive in them the love of freedom and the hope of deliverance. Uphold also the hands of our brothers and sisters in the land of Israel. Cause a new light to shine upon Zion and upon us all, that the time may come when your Torah will go forth from the house of Israel, your word from the tents of Jacob. We praise you, our God, whose presence gives life to our people, Israel. We thank you, God, for all the blessings in our lives, and so we take a moment to consider the blessings in our lives and perhaps even to share those blessings with the congregation. So if you are feeling particularly blessed this morning or have something you'd like to share, please allow us to feel blessed along with you. Excellent. Alex said he's grateful for being able to take time to come back home and visit his childhood synagogue, and which actually makes me grateful that people come back. That's wherever you go, you should be involved somewhere and feel a connection, and even coming home knowing that this is a home for you. So good for you. It makes me feel good. So for the blessings we've read out loud, perhaps more blessings that may be in the chat or in our own hearts and minds, we share this prayer of thanksgiving together at the top of page 121. We gratefully acknowledge that you are our God and the God of our people, the God of all generations. You are the rock of our life, the power that shields us in every age. We thank you and sing your praises for our lives, which are in your hand, for our souls, which are in your keeping, for the signs of your presence we encounter every day, and for the wondrous gifts at all times, morning, noon, and night. You are goodness. Your mercies never end. You are compassion. Your love will never fail. You have always been our hope. Praised be the eternal God, to whom our thanks are due. Page 122. Sim shalom tova uvracha, sim shalom tova uvracha, chen v'chesed v'rachamim. Sim shalom tova uvracha, sim shalom tova uvracha, chen v'chesed v'rachamim. Aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael amecha, sim shalom. Aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael amecha, sim shalom. Sim shalom tova uvracha, sim shalom tova uvracha, chen v'chesed v'rachamim. Sim shalom tova uvracha, sim shalom tova uvracha, chen v'chesed v'rachamim. Baruch atah Adonai hamevarech et amo Yisrael b'shalom. We praise you, O God, the source of peace. And where did I put it back up here. We consider now those in our families, our circle of friends, our congregation, our community at large, people who are in need of healing and in need of prayers for healing. We think of those who care for those in need of healing, wishing for them wisdom and insight and skill. We think of those who care about those in need of healing, wishing for them endurance and strength and courage. We think especially this week of those from our congregational family, Bill Bly, Janet Breskman, Rhonda Cohen, Willa D'Souza, Irene Chaya Doniger, Barbara Foreman, Lisa Friedman, Marvin Fuchs, Ruth Kravitz, Howard Kravitz, Steve Matzner, Lois Miller, Jay Peck, John Rose, Bill Schneider, Jackie Student, Velvel Ben Avraham, Pete Walsh. Of course, we think of everyone in Ukraine and all of the people who are affected by what's going on in Ukraine. And if you're thinking of someone who is in need of healing or in need of prayers for healing and they would like for their name to be shared at this moment, please share it with us. For all the people whose names we've heard out loud, perhaps more names that may remain in our own hearts and minds, we share this prayer of healing inside your either the front or back cover of the prayer book as a series of stickers. We'll do version number 1 this morning, version number 1. After our prayer for healing, we'll continue with silent prayer. Mishaberach Avotenu Mekor HaBracha Leimotenu. May the source of strength, who bless the ones before us, help us find the courage to make our lives a blessing, and let us say, Amen. Mishaberach imotenu mekor habracha lavotenu. Bless those in need of healing with refuah shlema, the renewal of body, the renewal of spirit, and let us say, Amen. Yehu leratzon imrefi vehegyon libi lefanecha Adonai tzuri Adonai tzuri vegoali yehiu leratzon imrefi vehegyon libi lefanecha Adonai tzuri Adonai tzuri vegoali. Wow, that was beautiful. Thank you. A few years ago, some of you may remember, my friend and teacher, Danny Siegel, came to be our scholar in residence for the weekend, and he talked about a lot of very kind of almost unnoticeable ways that we don't really think about, that lives could be changed in real profound ways if only we just did something small that we may not have even thought about before. So one of the suggestions he made, he asked everybody, who has a tzedakah box at home? And everybody raised their hand. I got a tzedakah box. And he said, who has a tzedakah box by the washing machine? And people looked at him quizzically. And he said, before you put your clothes in the washing machine, don't you always check the pockets? And everyone agreed that, yeah, you check the pockets. And he said, any money you find in that pocket, you didn't even know was there. So you take it out of the pocket, put it right into the tzedakah box, and this way, it's going to go to good. You didn't even know you had it in the first place, and it'll go right to help somebody else. So little things. He also said that now the world has changed with Uber and Lyft and all these kinds of things, but he was always a big proponent of every blind person should own their own car. And again, people kind of looked a little puzzled, and he said, well, if you're blind and you need a ride somewhere, you need to find a car and a driver. But if you have your own car, you just need to find a driver. So imagine there's a couple living next door, and one of those people in the couple is away with the car, and the other person is home. They could help you, but they don't have their car. But if you had your own car, all you need is a driver to drive you. Nowadays, like I said, with Uber and Lyft and all those things, it's changed a little bit, little different ways of changing. One of the things he said is, sometimes not every congregation has large print prayer books, right, Sidurim. So we do for the High Holy Days, although we have permission from CCR Press to print larger copies on our own of this, we haven't actually done it yet. But sometimes people come in and they either forgot their glasses and they can't read the print, and so some congregations, he said, have a basket full of reading glasses at the entrance to the sanctuary. Next day, Kathy Koffs shows up with a basket full of reading glasses, and so there's a basket full of reading glasses in our sanctuary, which is going to help me right now because I want to read something to you, and I need a pair of these glasses. Not exactly the frames I would choose for myself, but I know this pair particularly works because I've benefited from it a number of times. All right. So, the president, I know, don't these look, not bad, yeah. So the president of the Reform Movement of the Union for Reform Judaism is in Israel, and he sent out a Shabbat message on the 4th about his meeting with some high-level dignitaries in Israel, and I wanted to share with you Rabbi Jacob's Shabbat message that he sent out, on behalf of him and his trip to the Reform Movement. And so this was dated March 4th, 2022, Rabbi Rick Jacobs, and he calls it a galvanizing visit to Israel that fills me with encouragement. As I landed in Israel a week ago, Russia had just attacked Ukraine. People of conscience and goodwill across the globe were mobilizing support for Ukraine's besieged people. The world's eyes were suddenly focused on the remarkably courageous Jewish president of Ukraine, Volodymyr Zelensky. Throughout the past week, I was privileged to meet with Israel's top political leadership as they took the lead in supporting more than 100,000 Jews in Ukraine who are desperately seeking safety. Until our meetings, some of those Israeli leaders were unaware of the dozens of Reform communities spread out across Ukraine, a place many of our ancestors and relatives called home for centuries. For a moment, there were some voices in Israel that wanted to focus narrowly on only those who were halachically Jewish, but our voices amplified those who advocated for all members of our Jewish communities. Excuse me. Something I learned this week, by the way, is that, which makes sense since the Reform movement was founded in 1810 in Germany, that the Reform movement was in the Ukrainian area, the area of Ukraine, specifically in Ukraine, before it was in the United States, actually. So anyway, in meeting with the President of Israel, Isaac Herzog, Defense Minister Benny Gantz, Finance Minister Avigdor Lieberman, Transportation Minister Merav Michaeli, and Foreign Minister and alternate Prime Minister Yair Lapid. We discussed the crisis in Ukraine, the future of the Kotel, which is the Western Wall, ensuring more funding and rights for non-Orthodox Jews, combating racism, and stopping extremist violence against Palestinians, in addition to other pressing issues. These leaders, who represent diverse parties within the current Israeli government, are quite impressive, and we have been working closely with many of them for years. But surely the most dramatic meeting was with Prime Minister Bennett, the first meeting between a Prime Minister of Israel and leaders of the reform and conservative movements in 6 years. Though it was only scheduled to last 60 minutes, we engaged in deep, respectful dialogue for 90 minutes. Prime Minister Bennett laid out the urgent challenges in Ukraine, negotiations over Iran's nuclear program underway in Vienna, and also Israel's other ongoing security challenges. I thank the Prime Minister for working hard and started to rebuild bipartisan support for Israel on I thank the Prime Minister for working hard and smart to rebuild bipartisan support for Israel on Capitol Hill and repair the tears in Israelis' relations with North American Jewry. I made clear that rebuilding trust with non-Orthodox Jews in Israel and around the world requires moving forward, and the long-delayed 2016 Kotel agreement to end the Orthodox monopoly on this holy space. He promised that while constraints within his coalition prevented the whole agreement from being implemented immediately, there could be positive steps taken in the very near future. He committed to making certain his government could immediately upgrade security for non-Orthodox Jews when we gather for prayer at the Kotel. He also committed to begin renovating the physical space at the current egalitarian area, a strong and long overdue affirmation of the legitimacy of the various streams of Judaism. This morning, on Rosh Chodesh Adar II, we celebrated the new month at the Kotel, along with the conservative movement and Women of the Wall and others who are committed to ensuring that all Jews can pray freely at the Western Wall. We marched with Torah scrolls from the Dung Gate to the entrance to the Kotel, but were prevented from bringing the scrolls into the main plaza with us. Luckily, my beloved Reform colleague, member of Knesset Rabbi Gilad Kariv, used his Knesset immunity to bring in a Torah, which was read by Women of the Wall. 10,000 Orthodox girls and women came to protest against us. There were hate-filled signs and harsh chants against us, but we managed to pray and read Torah. With enormous spiritual strength and much love, we raised our voices together in prayer for a month filled with blessing, safety, unity, and peace for all of our people here in Israel and in Ukraine. Alongside me in these meetings were Rabbi Josh Weinberg, URJ's Vice President for Israel and Reform Zionism, and the leadership of the Israeli Reform Movement, Anna Kislansky, Orly Erez-Dechovsky, and Yair Lutstein. Of all the political meetings, one stands out above the rest. It was a pure blessing to have an hour to sit with member of Knesset Rabbi Gilad Kariv, who is a new member of the Knesset in the Labor Party and the chair of the critical Knesset Constitution and Law Committee. With his usual brilliance, Gilad is leading essential efforts to protect the democratic institutions of Israel while fighting for the religious, civil, and human rights of all Israelis. Throughout the meetings, we shared a commitment to the centrality of Israel to Jewish life. This Shabbat, to close our visit that has been so full of hope, I look forward to being with our Heller High students. That's our high school exchange program with the Reform Movement. Some of our students have participated in that. It used to be called the Eisendrath International Exchange Program. So that's what Ariel and Alec did. In this week's Torah portion, and Rachel Wasserman also, but she was there at a time where she had to come back because of the pandemic. In this week's Torah portion, Pikudei, we read about the completion of the first praying space in Jewish life. What was it about this modest prayer tent that led God to bless it by dwelling in it? It wasn't the most beautiful. It wasn't the biggest. It wasn't the fanciest. But it was made by people brought together for a holy purpose. There was no fighting or petty squabbles in this. Everyone rolled up their sleeves and made this modest yet beautiful tent. God watched the cooperation. God watched the selflessness. God was so moved by their unity. In the work of building the first praying space, every one of the Israelites was on the same team, working for the same goal. I pray that our Jewish communities can come together to protect and strengthen each of us as we build a more just and loving world for all. At this galvanizing moment, which is both full of promise and ominous, we wish everyone, and especially our family in Ukraine, a true Shabbat Shalom. So I thought that was worth sharing. We think everything's all kind of modern and we're living in the, 21st century now, but there are still issues all around the world that we need to remember. Some people are fighting more personally and more, kind of on the front lines than we realize sometimes. And so for, police to, and literally the army, to prevent women from bringing a Torah scroll to the wall, or back up, even Reformed Jewish men, conservative Jewish men, not Orthodox, it's concerning. And so, on some level, one of the reasons why the conservative movement was founded in the first place as a reaction to the Reform movement was this, fear perhaps of things kind of not not unfolding, but kind of going different ways and losing a sense of connectedness. But if we're in it for the right reason and we're all there trying to make it a place where it has true meaning and it's not just to prove a point, but there's something behind it, then it brings us together and we have a purpose. And I think it's important to see. Anyway, I also want to share with you one quick message. This is I follow. On Instagram, I follow the World Union for Progressive Judaism, and this is Rabbi, I forget his name, sorry, Rabbi Alexander Duchovny. He's a Reform rabbi in Kyiv, and this was recorded 2 days ago. My understanding is that he might not be there at this point, that he's perhaps moving around, and I know there was a woman rabbi in Kyiv who, although she lives in Kyiv and serves the Reformed Jewish community there, she is a Russian citizen, so she left Kyiv in order to be outside of Ukraine. But this is a very brief message from Rabbi Duchovny from the Reform movement in Kyiv to thank and acknowledge people around the world who are supporting them in their struggle.
Dear friends, sponsors, donors, members of synagogues and temples around the world who belong to the World Union for Progressive Judaism, we are now together fighting evil, and we are together trying to protect the major human values which are based on Jewish values and values of Reform, Progressive, Liberal Judaism. I would like to thank all of you for your help and messages which you're sending from different continents and from different countries. Your messages are so important not only for me personally, which support me, but also are very important to the members of 40 plus congregations of our movement here in Ukraine. I'm in constant contact with the members, and your donation to the World Union for Progressive Judaism is beyond any value. It helps us to survive, and we are looking forward to build a bright future for our movement here in Ukraine. Today is the 8th day of war. We are before Shabbat. And what I hear in Ukraine from different corners, from different Jewish organizations, that we are like David and Goliath. We will prevail like David. We will conquer evil and those who are spreading evil, not only to Ukraine, but to entire world. And our unity shows many people that we are one nation of God. We are children of God. We have one ancestor, Adam. We are fighting for our life and for our democracy. Thank you so much for doing this and for being with me and with my congregations and constituency. I love you, and I hope that peace will come soon, and we will celebrate Purim in the free, democratic Ukraine. God bless all of you. Shabbat Shalom. Bye.
These are people who are fighting to have the ability to live their lives freely, to show up in life in general, and to show up at their own synagogues, to be Jewish, to live Jewish, and to have the opportunity to live their lives democratically, freely, of their own, with free will. So I encourage people to support Ukraine in one way or the other. Some of you have seen the email message that I sent out the other day. I also set up a one of those shortcut URLs that you could access that email message, ukraine.rabbilazar.info, ukraine.rabbilazar.info, and that'll take you right to that email message so you can see it and you can donate if you're able, and at the very least you can access the World Union for Progressive Judaism website, and you can send messages of support. So there are lots of ways to reach out and let them know that we're thinking of them and praying for them. And we are truly blessed here because we have the opportunity to show up whenever we want, as you have done this morning, And there are lots of other opportunities for people to show up because there are a good number of things going on in our community in the very near future, for sure. So I'm going to invite Steve Koffs to come and share. I have the sheet if you want. You can read off the paper. I mean, you don't have to, but you can.
Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom.
So this week at Temple B'Tachim, we're here for morning service. Tomorrow, Sunday, March 6th, 9 a.m. religious school and 12 p.m. confirmation classes. Wednesday, March 9th, 7:30 a.m. morning minyan. Thursday, March 10th, 12 p.m. midweek Torah study and 7 p.m. Board of Trustees meeting. Save the following dates. Saturday, March 12th, 7 p.m. real night in person, right here. Sunday, March 13th, Purim Carnival at 9 a.m., religious school at 12 p.m., confirmation. Purim Carnival, 9 a.m. religious school and 12 p.m. confirmation.
I'm gonna jump in real quick because it's a little confusing. So, religious school is from 9 to 11:30. The Purim Carnival, which is on that day, goes from 11:30 to 1:30, and confirmation will start at 2 that day. It's a special program we're doing online with the Jewish community in Pittsburgh. So 9 to 11:30 on the 13th is Sunday school. 11:30 to 1:30 is the Purim Carnival, and at 2 o'clock is confirmation.
Obviously, I read it incorrectly. Friday, March 18th, 10 a.m., TBA Book Club, which is going to be by Zoom. Tuesday, March 15th, 7 p.m. on Zoom, Jewish artists from around the world, presented by Lois Miller, longtime docent at the Philadelphia Art Museum and longtime member. Wednesday, March 16th, 6 p.m., Purim evening service. Thursday, March 17th, 9 a.m., Purim Monday service, Zoom only, and office closed. And Saturday, March 19th at 7:30, the adult Purim party and basket raffle fundraiser. Details are in our weekly announcements, in our March newsletter, and on our website. Friday, March 25th, 7:30, Shabbat evening service will be led by Sisterhood. Saturday, April 2nd, 7:30 p.m., cabaret evening on Broadway, popular arias, Yiddish favorites, and fun with TBA's own Sarah Duchovny. Ticket information in our weekly announcements, in the March newsletter, and on the website. And wait, there's more. Sunday, April 3rd, 4 p.m. to 6 p.m., Adult Ed, a conversation with Zev Elef, the new president of Gratz College, and he'll be talking about Dara Horn's book. He'll be talking about dead Jews.
Well, Dara Horn's book was
Dara
called
Horn's
People
book.
Love Dead Jews. Right?
People love dead Jews, yes. And
So he
and
will be talking about dead Jews, but within the context
Yeah,
of the book.
right.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's what and dead Jews and American anti-Semitism, a call for living. And if you want to get ready for that, you're welcome to read Dara Horn's book. That ought to, is there more?
But wait, there's more.
Wow.
There really is.
But wait. Sunday, April 10th, walk in the park, fighting hunger one step at a time. All are welcome as we walk the beautiful paths of McCaig Nature Center, which is in King of Prussia, right next to the Roberts School. Beginning at 10 a.m., no Sunday school that day, so bring the whole family. Wednesday, April 27th, at 7 p.m., Yom HaShoah program in person at Mainline Reform Temple. And public service announcement, TBA nominating committee is seeking people interested in a leadership position. If you would like to contribute your time and talent to the synagogue as a board member or house leader or service team member, please contact Cheryl Barr-Sherlick. And last I heard, they were especially seeking a member at large for the Board of Trustees. So please contact Cheryl if you have an interest. And that ought to do it. So Shabbat Shalom, and have a great week, everyone.
Thank you, Steve. Shabbat Shalom. So we'll continue now with Aleinu on page 148. Scott, yes. The question was,
what's the movie on Real Nights, which is a week from tonight, and it is Who Will Write Our History, a really marvelous film that I've seen about some courageous Jews in the Warsaw Ghetto who wanted to make sure that their telling of the story was preserved.
Yeah, it's pretty impressive. Before the movie even came out, I remember sitting in my parents' apartment with my cousin Joy, and Joy was telling me how her daughter, my cousin Allie, who has graduated already 2 years ago from Trinity College in Hartford, Connecticut, her professor that she was friends with was involved in this really incredible project, and Allie actually went with him to Poland to do some work on this project. And it's this particular guy who kind of was supervising all of the excavating and kind of bringing out of the memoirs and stuff and going through it all. It was this group of people in the Warsaw Ghetto who were kind of anticipating that they needed to ensure something would be able to tell their story if the worst were to happen. So they wrote every day. This whole group of people wrote about their stories and we recorded all these different, kind of observations and notes, like diaries almost. And then at some point they said, okay, we need to do this. They buried it under the floor in a basement in a house and never said anything about it. And like years later, there was a group of people who were being toured around somewhere, and someone made some comment about how they heard that there was something buried in a house somewhere, and someone in the crowd was one of the people who was part of that project and said, yes, that's true. And then they found this house and they dug up the basement and they brought it all out. It's amazing. It's really it's an amazing story. Just not only what they found, but the whole story of how it happened and how it was discovered, and really worth seeing. Who Will Write Our History? And that's the website, by the way. I think it's whowillwriteourhistory.com, I think. Produced by, Steven Spielberg's sister. Anyway, worth watching, worth coming to. So please, in body, mind, or spirit, please rise as you're able. And I'm going to invite Scott and Alex to open and close the Ark. Page 148. Aleinu l'shabeach la'adon hakol, la'teit gedula liotzer bereshit, shelo asanu kigoye ha'aratzot, velo samanu kemishbechot ha'adama, shelo sam chelkenu kahem, וגורלנו ככל המונם, ואנחנו קוראים ומשתחווים ומודים לפני מלך מלכי המלכים, הקדוש ברוך הוא, שהוא נוטה שמיים ויוסד הארץ, ומושב יקרו בשמיים ממעל, ושכינת עוזו בגובהי מרומים, הוא אלוהינו אין עוד, אמת מלכנו אפס זולתו, ככתוב בתורתו, וידעת היום והשבות אל לבבך, כי אדוני הוא האלוהים בשמיים ממעל, ועל הארץ מתחת אין עוד, ונאמר והיה אדוני למלך על כל הארץ, ביום ההוא יהיה אדוני אחד, ושמו אחד. Thank you. Please be seated. Our thoughts turn now to those who have departed this earth, our own loved ones, those whom our friends and neighbors have lost, the martyrs of our people, and those of every race and nation whose lives have been a blessing to humanity. As we remember them, let us meditate on the meaning of love and loss, of life and death. Life is finite. Like a candle, it burns, it glows, it is radiant with warmth and beauty, and then it fades. Its substance is consumed, and it is no more. In light we see, in light we are seen. The flames dance and our lives are full, but as night follows day, the candle of our life burns down and gutters. There is an end to the flames. We see no more and are no more seen. Yet we do not despair, for we are more than a memory slowly fading into the darkness. With our lives we give life. Something of us can never die. We move in the eternal cycle of darkness and death, of light and life. However brief may be our time on earth, O God, you endow our fleeting days with abiding worth. We now recall the loved ones whom death has recently taken from us, and as we remember those who died at this season in years past, we take them into our hearts with our own. The following yahrzeits will be observed at some point during the coming week. This Shabbat, we remember Jay Popke, late husband of Kira Popke, father of Jordan Popke, Adam Popke, and Natalie Popke. We remember Shane Frankel, brother-in-law of Howard Delfiner, Jerry Bierhoff, late husband of Maureen Bierhoff, Samuel Resnick, father of Sid Sussman, Ellis D'Souza, father of Norm D'Souza, Edith Pennies, mother of Diane Edelman, Oscar L. Eisenberg, grandfather of Betty London, Irving Lentz, father of Jim Lentz, Julio Schulman, father of Rick Schulman. If you are remembering someone in particular, observing a period of mourning, or want to share a name with us of someone you've lost, please share that name with us. In this moment of memory, our griefs and our sympathies are mingled. Loving God, we praise your name by affirming the lives that we must continue to live, enriched by the memories and blessings left to us by those who have died. As we turn now to page 154, and as one supportive community, we rise for Kaddish Yatom, the mourner's Kaddish, the prayer of life. Yitgadal v'yitgadash shemei rabbah, be'alma divra chirutei, ve'yamlich malchutei, b'chayechon uv'yomechon, uv'chaye dechol beit Yisrael, ba'agala uv'izman kariv, ve'imru amen. Yehei shemei rabbah mevarach leolam ula'olmei almaya, yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitromam v'yitnaseh v'yithadar v'yitaleh v'yithalal shemei dekudasha barichu le'ela bim kol birchata v'shirata tushbechata v'nechemata da'amiran bi'alma ve'imru amen. Yehei shlama rabba min shamaya v'chaim aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael ve'imru amen. Oseh shalom bimromav hu ya'aseh shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael ve'al kol yoshvei tevel ve'imru amen. May the one who causes peace to reign in the high heavens cause peace to reign among us, all Israel, and all who dwell on earth. And may the source of peace send peace to all who mourn and comfort all who are bereaved, as together we say, Amen. Please be seated, and our closing song can be found right there at the top of page 155. Would that the world were actually filled with peace at this moment, and would that we were able to make it happen even more quickly than we had hoped by going and doing our part to make it so. Oseh shalom bimromav, hu ya'aseh shalom aleinu. Oseh shalom bimromav, hu ya'aseh shalom aleinu. Oseh shalom bimromav, hu ya'aseh shalom aleinu. Yaseh shalom, yaseh shalom, shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael. Yaseh shalom, yaseh shalom, shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael. Oseh shalom bimromav, hu ya'aseh shalom aleinu. Oseh shalom bimromav, hu ya'aseh shalom aleinu. Oseh shalom bimromav, hu ya'aseh shalom aleinu, yaseh shalom, yaseh shalom, shalom aleinu, v'al kol Yisrael, yaseh shalom, yaseh shalom, shalom aleinu, v'al kol Yisrael, oseh shalom bimromav, hu ya'aseh shalom aleinu. Oseh shalom bimromav, hu ya'aseh shalom aleinu. Oseh shalom bimromav, hu ya'aseh shalom aleinu. Yaseh shalom, yaseh shalom, shalom aleinu, ve'al kol Yisrael. Yaseh shalom, yaseh shalom, shalom aleinu, ve'al kol Yisrael. And I'd like to call Steve back for the honor of our Kiddush and Motzi. 167, page 167. V'shamru v'nei Yisrael et ha-Shabbat la'asot et ha-Shabbat l'dorotam berit olam. V'shamru v'nei Yisrael et ha-Shabbat la'asot et ha-Shabbat l'dorotam berit olam.
Beini uvein b'nei Yisrael, oti leolam, oti
leolam. V'shamru v'nei Yisrael et ha-Shabbat la'asot et ha-Shabbat l'dorotam berit olam. V'shamru v'nei Yisrael et ha-Shabbat la'asot et ha-Shabbat l'dorotam berit olam. Ki sheshet yamim asa Adonai, asa Adonai, et hashamayim v'et haaretz, v'shamru v'nei Yisrael et ha-Shabbat la'asot et ha-Shabbat l'dorotam berit olam. V'shamru v'nei Yisrael et ha-Shabbat la'asot et ha-Shabbat l'dorotam berit olam. Uvayom hashvi'i Shabbat vayinafash, Shabbat vayinafash, Shabbat vayinafash. V'shamru v'nei Yisrael et ha-Shabbat la'asot et ha-Shabbat l'dorotam berit olam. V'shamru v'nei Yisrael et ha-Shabbat la'asot et ha-Shabbat l'dorotam berit olam. Al kain, Al kain, berach Adonai et yom ha-Shabbat vayikatshehu.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, borei peri hagafen.
Amen. L'chaim. And wild guess under the challah cover, there's going to be a challah, maybe. Look at that.
Amotzi lechem min haaretz. We give thanks to God for bread. Our voices rise in song together as our joyful prayer is said. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, amotzi lechem min haaretz. Shabbat shalom.
Shabbat shalom, everybody. Thank you to everyone who's here. Thank you to everyone who joined us online via live stream. Thank you, Steve, for accepting all the honors this morning, and thanks to Alex and to Scott for the honor of the Ark opening and closing. Thanks to Mark and of course, Coach Rhonda beside him all the way. And Shabbat Shalom.